What's up guys, Perry from Rockville here, and today I'm going to show you how to set up your BluTube receiver. Now this receiver is available with 3 different versions, so you have the BluTube LED, the BluTube SG, and the BluTube WD. The only difference of these 3 receivers are the colors, so the overall functionality and how we set up the receivers is the exact same across all 3. So along with your receiver, you also get this RCA to aux cable, which is really handy if you want to connect a music device through the RCA input on the back of the receiver, and then you have the other end to plug into your device. So the first thing we can do when setting up our receiver is connect our speakers. On the back of the receiver, you'll see we have the speaker terminals here, and you see we have 1 terminal for the left side of speakers and 1 terminal for the right side of speakers. Underneath these terminals, you're going to see this sign here that reads minimum 4 ohm. Now this just tells us that the left and the right channels are 4 ohm, which will let us know what kind of speakers we can use with this receiver. So for example, you can use 1 4 ohm speaker for the left channel and 1 4 ohm speaker for the right channel, which is a perfect match because you're matching the impedance of 4 ohms. You can also use 1 8 ohm speaker per channel, and you can even use 2 8 ohm speakers per channel because that will bring your impedance down to 4 ohms, which will match the impedance on the receiver. But no matter what, you don't want the impedance to fall under 4 ohms because that could risk damaging your speakers and or the receiver. So with that, you don't want to use 2 4 ohm speakers for the left and right channel. We made this chart here for you guys to show you the different combinations of speakers you can use with the receiver. So for today, I'm going to be using the Rockville 68 V2 speakers, which are 8 ohm speakers. So to set them up to my receiver, I'm going to loosen these speaker terminals here on the back. I'm going to be using these speaker wires to connect the speakers to my receiver. So I'm going to take one end of these wires and plug them into the speaker outputs here. And I'm going to be sure to match the red with the red terminal and the black to the black terminal. Then I'm going to take the other ends and plug them into the terminals on the back of my speakers. And again, be sure to match the red with the red and the black with the black. If you wanted to make these connections easier, you can always get banana adapters that plug right into the terminals of your speakers or receiver. Now remember, because I'm using 8 ohm speakers today, I can also expand my setup with 2 more 8 ohm speakers for the left and right channel. And the way to do that is through parallel wiring, which we actually have a video on if you want to check that out to expand your setup further. In summary though, you're just taking another set of speaker wires and connecting them to the terminals of your first pair of speakers, and then you plug the other ends into the next pair of speakers, and then you're all set. Again, you can check out that video for some more detail. So now that we've got our speakers connected, let's go ahead and turn on our receiver. So let's break down the controls on the front of the receiver. So here we have the pause and play button, and we can use this to pause or play our track by pressing the button like this. This also acts as a dial to switch between tracks. So if we spin it to the right, we go forward in our tracks. And if we spin it to the left, we go back tracks. Next to that, we have a 2-band EQ with a treble and bass knob, and this can be used to affect the overall sound that's coming out of the receiver. So we can use the treble knob to adjust the high-end frequencies coming out of the receiver, and then we can use the bass knob to control the low-end frequencies coming out of the receiver. Next to the pause and play button, we have an input for our headphones if we want to listen to anything coming through the receiver privately. So after we connect the headphones, we can use this button here to switch it to headphone mode. So we want to do that by pressing this button in, and after that you'll hear everything coming through the receiver out of your headphones. And if you ever wanted to switch it back so that you hear it through your speakers, you're just going to press this button again to set it to the overall speaker mode. Here we have the input selector to tell the receiver which source we want to hear coming through. If we want to hear our Bluetooth or USB device, we're going to set this switch to the middle. Or if we wanted to hear the optical, HDMI, or coax inputs, we're going to flip this switch all the way down. And next to that, we have the volume dial here to control the volume coming out of the receiver. So on the back of the receiver, we have the different inputs that we can use to connect our music sources to the receiver. We have an HDMI in, so we can use the audio return channel from our smart TV and plug that into the HDMI in on our receiver. We also have an optical input, so if your TV has an optical output, you can connect one end to your TV and then the other end into the optical input on your receiver. receiver. The optical input is also covered by this plastic piece here, so you want to be sure to take that out before using it. And then we also have a coax input if you wanted to use the coax output from your TV with your receiver. So if you wanted to use these inputs, you also want to flip this switch here on the back, which is going to tell the receiver that we're using those input sources. So for example, if we're using the HDMI in, we're going to flip the switch all the way to the left. If we wanted to use the optical input, we're going to set it in the middle. And if we wanted to use the coax input, we're going to flip it all the way to the right. Also remember, you want to use this input switch here on the front of the receiver and set it all the way down so it uses the HDMI, optical, and coax. So to show you how exactly to set it up to your TV, I have one right here, and we're going to show you the connections that you want to make. So first, let's go over the HDMI setup. So here, you're going to take your HDMI cable and plug that into the HDMI input on the back of your receiver. Then you're going to take the other end and plug it into your TV. And remember, if you have the audio return channel available on your TV, you're going to plug it into that HDMI port. So for today, we're going to plug it into HDMI 1. Also remember, you want to flip the switch on the back all the way to the left to use the HDMI input. And remember to have the input switch to the HDMI on the front as well. From here, you're going to go into the audio settings of your TV and switch the output to HDMI. And you can also go into the audio format settings and switch it to PCM to ensure that you're getting the most high resolution stereo audio. So next we'll show you how to do it through Optical. Remember that you want to take out this plastic piece here if you're using the optical input on the back. So take this piece out and set it aside. Now before moving forward, you just want to double check to see if the optical output on your TV can be used for audio. You'll know that you can if it says something like audio out optical. So with that, you're going to take one end of your optical cable and plug it into the audio out optical on your TV. After that, you should see the other end of your cable light up red, which lets you know that it's sending out the audio signal from this output. So then you're going to take the other end and plug it into the optical input on your receiver. Flip the switch to the middle to set it to the optical input. And again, make sure to set it to the optical input on the front of your receiver. From here, you're going to go into the sound settings of your TV and switch the output to audio out optical. And you can also set the audio format to PCM to ensure you're getting the most high resolution audio in stereo. And if you wanted to use the coax output from your TV, you can follow similar steps using a coax cable. So plug one end into the coax output of your TV, then plug the other end into the coax input on your receiver. Make sure that the receiver is set to the coax mode as well, and switch the audio output in the sound settings to coax. And from here, you'll be able to hear everything from your TV coming through the receiver and out of your speakers. Now let's say you want to set up your gaming console to your receiver, but you're using the HDMI port with your TV for the video. You're still able to set up your console to your receiver by using the optical. So to do that, all you're going to do is take your optical cable here, plug one end into the optical output of your gaming console. You should see that the other side of your cable is lighting up red, letting you know that it's receiving the signal from your console. Then you can take the other end and plug it into the optical input on the back of the receiver, but just make sure to take out this plastic piece that's plugged into the input before you do this. Next, you can flip this switch on the back to the middle for the optical input mode, and make sure that the front of the receiver is set to the optical mode as well. From here, you can go into the sound settings of your gaming console and make sure that you set the audio output to audio out optical. You can also switch the audio format to PCM to ensure that you're getting the highest resolution of audio in stereo. So now all of the audio coming from your gaming console will be sent through the receiver and out of your speakers for a great setup. Now, on top of using the optical, HDMI, and coax inputs, we have a few different ways we can play music or sound through the receiver. One way to do this is by using the included RCA to aux cable and plugging the RCA ends into the aux input on the back of your receiver here. You're then going to set the input on the front of your receiver to aux by flipping it all the way up. Then from here, you can plug your device into the aux and play music from your device. We also have the USB input on the front, so we can play music through a USB thumb drive. For that, you can plug in your USB thumb drive and make sure to set the input into the middle position for the USB mode. And then we can also connect our device like our smartphone or tablet through Bluetooth. To do that, make sure that the input is set to Bluetooth mode by using the middle position here. From here, you're going to go into the Bluetooth settings of your smartphone or tablet and search for the device that reads BluTube. Depending on the color of the BluTube, it will read the LED for the black one, SG for the silver one, and WD for the wood one. So just keep that in mind when you're searching for your device. So because I'm using the black BluTube here, I'm going to search for the device that reads BluTube LED. And then I'm going to click on it to pair. And then from there, you'll see that your device is connected to the Bluetooth. So now let's go ahead and hear how it sounds. Yeah, sounds really good. Now another way we can expand our setup is by using the sub output on the back of the receiver to add a subwoofer for some more low end. So for this setup, I can use an RCA to RCA cable, plug one end into the sub out on the back of the receiver, then plug the other end into the RCA input on the back of your sub. Now from here, you can make the adjustments on your subwoofer to make sure that it's in tune with the rest of your setup. So you can set up the volume to your liking, you can set it to the appropriate crossover for your setup, and then you can use the phase switch to make sure that it's in sync with the speakers in your setup. And now you got some extra bass in your setup, so let's go ahead and hear how that sounds. Wow. You feel that, okay? So hopefully this showed you guys how easy it is to set up your BluTube receiver. But of course, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to reach out to our customer support team through phone or email. As always, I'm Perry from Rockville, and we'll see you guys next time.